since I don't want to scare people, we're going to do this method. And if you have sensitive hearing, you might get a little pop. This is way more bubbles than I want, so watch it. Here we go. Okay. Okay. What else? What other cool lessons have I learned on the house? For heating, I do have to heat it with an electric space heater. It's the smallest one that you can buy. And for that, I plug in the winter time, and it seems to work great, heats the house up great. But the key in that is insulation. I spent a ton of time insulating the house, and I did a lot of air sealing. That's almost more important than the R value. So you want to really button your house up so it's not drafty, and then also drafts inside the wall you have to think about. So I specifically sealed my sheets together, which really helps. The house stays up temp, gets up 75 degrees, too hot. A lot of times I have to turn the space heater off at night. And yeah. Other cool ideas I've learned from the house. Should I get into future ideas? I think I'm there. We don't need to stay here for a long time. All right, so future ideas. Thinking of. So in Santa Fe, New Mexico, there's tumbleweeds that just, we have an arroyo behind our house. And if I go try and walk through the arroyo, the tumbleweeds are over my head, and you know, it's a quarter-mile long. So a lot of material. And I started thinking, there's a way of building called hempcrete that I've been into it for a long time. And that's where they grow hemp, and after they process the fibers, you end up with this shake material, and they mix it with lime, and that petrifies it, makes it rot resistant, pest resistant, fire resistant, which is really amazing. And you know, there's people that have grown an acre of hemp and then mowed it down and built their house out of it. It's also great because it sequesters carbon as it's growing, and you lock it into these bricks. So you've helped pull some CO2 out of the air. Yeah. And then this is new to me, but the lime is actually absorbing CO2 for the life of the building too. So I think it's a very good solution. But I got thinking, I'm like, okay, I haven't been able to grow an acre of hemp. What happens if I chip up tumbleweeds? You know, it's a very fibrous plant, pre-dried out, and so I made a brick, and I think it is a very viable option for building. So I'm gonna keep playing around with that. These kind of ideas are like, they're test examples, you know, so I'm not trying to do a 4,000 square foot, you know, permitted house. I'm gonna do a little test example, build a shed first, and see what happens of it. Now, taking the step further and even more futuristic and crazy than that, I've been really interested in mycelium. People know about mycelium. So mycelium is the root structure of mushrooms. If you go on Netflix, there's a movie called Fantastic Fungi, however you want to say it, and they'll detail in there mycelium. And so I was watching that, learned some things. So I ground up the tumbleweeds, and I sterilized it first, and then I inoculated it. Basically took oyster mushroom mycelium and put that in my bag of the tumbleweed, and I started to grow this mycelium brick. So I really started thinking, I'm like, okay, could I maybe build like in the cellar, the property I'm at, because it's warm and stable temp, could I build forms, pack it in with the sterilized tumbleweed, and grow foam panels? And I don't think that would be the finished product. You would want to, you know, coat it in like a rhino lining or a rubber or something. But I'm kind of dreaming of maybe in the future, like my next tiny house might be this really flowy, futuristic, organic looking grown thing. One thing you have to do to it, you cook it at 200 degrees for like an hour, and that will stop the growth of the thing. So it's not like your walls are actually going to produce mushrooms. So that's really cool. Now the heating thing. So this, I don't know if you guys know about this. This is wild. Let me put this down. So this winter, I've been goofing off with this idea. What is water? H2O. And what does that stand for? Hydrogen and oxygen. Did you know water is explosive? And it's hydrogen is the explosive part, and it's the most abundant element in the universe. It's everywhere. It's in you, so you're explosive. Wild. Wild. And like, you would not believe how easy this is. So I built a machine first. They call it an HHO generator. It's hydrogen, oxygen is what that stands for, H2O. And it's very easy the way it works. The simplest version I built first is you take a battery and you put into like a salty water, 2 wires coming off, one off the positive, one off the negative, and right away you'll start seeing bubbles come up off of that. And one on the, I believe it's the positive is the oxygen and the negative is the hydrogen, so you can actually separate it, which there are people that are doing this at their homes and storing the hydrogen. You wouldn't want to store hydrogen and oxygen together because it's extremely explosive. So what's interesting though is you can make it on demand and not have to store it. So where I can't run a little space heater in my tiny house all night long, I can probably run it for 3-4 hours before my batteries get too low. This machine I ran all night long producing hydrogen and oxygen, and my batteries barely dipped in voltage. It feels like complete magic when you start messing with this stuff. And I'll show you a little experiment of it when we get going. My son and I, we spent New Year's launching rockets that we were filling with hydrogen. They were caulking tubes, spent caulking tubes that I put in a piece of conduit. The thing about it is hydrogen and oxygen, the boom you get from it is really deafening, and you know, we got to be sensitive, not trigger people around here. So here's my little torch, and you can buy this machine on Amazon for like, I got it, I think for $150, which is amazing. They sell it for like jewelry brazing, which I know nothing about. So I'm gonna take the torch off. This is part of the unit. So I've started building a hydrogen, an HHO boiler is what I'm coming up with. And basically you'll have a pilot flame that comes up and you're heating pipes that go through there. And then in the tiny house, you would have underneath your finished floor, you would have radiant heat flooring pipes going through there. If you have experienced radiant heat flooring, it's like the best. It's not drying out your air. It's a nice even heat. And so to me, this is my favorite part about living in a tiny house. Woo! You know, people are trying to make tiny houses legal and all this stuff. I like the illegal part of it. Like, let's come up with different ideas. Like, why do we have to do the same thing over and over again, you know? So, I'm going to turn this on. What's going on in here? This is the water tank. And all it has in there is, you want like a distilled water would be great. And then you put in a little sodium hydroxide, and that helps make the water like more conductive. If water has no minerals in it, it's actually an insulator, which is really weird. But if you put salt in there, it becomes really conductive, which is really interesting. Like, I swear, the more I mess with this stuff, the more it seems like magic. Okay, and then it's going, got some of that sodium hydroxide. Then it's going to this little bubbler. That's all this is. It's basically a check valve so that if there is ever a flashback explosion, and it happens sometimes, it's just like a little pop that goes off in this thing. It doesn't get into the main machine where it could like build a little pressure, but all in all, really safe. And the biggest safety feature is that you're producing this flammable gas on demand. So you're not storing it in your house. The gas line coming into your house, to me, that's way scarier than this. People freak out when you say hydrogen, but like having gas with all these unions all through your house, it's kind of a freaky thing. And houses do go boom. So it's kind of weird. I don't know if it's like psyop or whatever that people like freak out so much about hydrogen. There was just a movie on Netflix where they kind of had a negative spin on hydrogen. Like, I don't think they want people to know about this. I don't know. Okay, so here we are. So since I don't want to scare people, we're going to do this method. And if you have sensitive hearing, you might get a little pop. This is way more bubbles than I want, so watch it. Here we go. Okay. 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 My bad. My bad. Those bubbles were way too big. Everything's okay. Everything's okay. That did not go that way at home, I promise. I think it's because the water is so low in there. Wow. That was not what I was going for. Is everybody okay?
Yeah.
I'm a little deaf. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'll talk to whoever I need to talk to apologize. Wow. Okay, on that, I think we'll call it. If I can hear you, I'll answer some questions. I'm sure it's safe. I put the water way too low. That was a bad idea. Anyway, I would love to answer questions and calm down a little bit.
So that was for the radiant floors? Is that how you warm the radiant floors?
Yeah, and that was definitely not the demo I was going for. It's been so light and mild the way that I've been doing it. You can tell I'm shocked.
What was supposed to happen?
So just very little. I should have filled the water to here, and we had just a couple little bubbles in here. Feeling highly embarrassed now, and I hope the ringing in your ears goes away soon. Thank you. I'm Drew Whitmer, and don't blow yourself up.